takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, stop me. 4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, you got me.
And there you are, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Cobb and Dash Show. It's week 1 is done, and we are on to week 2. And I gotta say, whenever we see that opening montage, I don't know if I'm gonna make a new one. I probably will keep it for at least for now. I don't have much time to make a new one, but I do gotta say, we're keeping some tradition in there, having some MPB that's still in there. His wake up. I think it's a good part of the show. Paying homage to the past owners and the late great owners in this league. But how's everyone doing? How's everyone feeling after the week 1 games?
I guess I can get started. A little disappointing, but expected result, I think. I think the only disappointing part was how my team performed. We'll probably cover that, but it seemed like week 1 was pretty slow for most people. Congrats to Alex on a very dominant week 1, but I'll pass it over to him.
Yeah, week 1 felt good. Obviously, I had the most points scored week 1, but I think at this point, where I'm standing, it's a very, very long season. So not trying to get too excited. Really, the standings at this point don't mean anything till you get to like week 7, 8. You start to really see where everything's shaping up. So just really trying to take it week by week and, focusing on my week 2 matchup.
That's interesting. It's a 360 compared to what we've been hearing from you for the last 3 days. So it's interesting that you're all of a sudden being this humble, modest guy. Now you got the 1 seed right now. I'll tell you what. Looking at your squad, my big takeaway from week 1. Looking at Alex's squad, I think right now we're looking at a guy who has maybe a bye seed locked up. I'm not saying he's going to get the 1 seed, but 2 or 1 based on the team right now. If all things go well and everyone stays healthy, I think we're looking at a team to beat, and maybe Alex gets his first win in BL Plus playoff history, which could be a big deal for the guy. Obviously, we had some people were saying the show went on a little too long last episode, but that was also because we were doing a lot of things in that episode. So with this one, instead of going over each week 1 matchup, just kind of your biggest takeaway from week 1, and then we'll move on to week 2 predictions. Then we'll go to obviously Pancake King rankings, and we end the show with it is back. Bears motivational squeeze to end the show, and that's where obviously you pick one guy who needs a little motivational pep talk, like the late great Marcus Berry would give. So, Cobb, what's one storyline that you're noticing going into week 2 after week 1?
The biggest thing is just the scoring differences. We had 6 owners get under 101 points in week 1. Is that one of the lowest scoring outcomes we've had in this league? Maybe we might need to get another analyst on there to get crunch those numbers for us. But then you have the clear winners right now with Alex and Tasia, like we had predicted on the first show, being well ahead in points for already. So.
Alex?
Yeah, I just think the biggest takeaway for me, it doesn't have to do with individual teams. I think it just has to do with what happened in week 1. I just think it was a bizarre week in general for fantasy, and I think you're going to see, players that blew up in week 1 maybe struggle week 2, and some guys that laid a goose egg or didn't have a great game really step up. And I think, it's going to take a couple of weeks for things to shake out. I found, I am the stats guy, and I found a very interesting stat from week 1 in the NFL season. So this is the last 5 years, opening weekend, week 1 passing touchdowns. 2019, 61 passing touchdowns. 2020, 52. 2021, 61. 22, 51. 23, 37. 24, which is currently right now 33.
Jesus.
33 passing touchdowns in week 1 compared to obviously 22 where we had 51, 21 we had 61, 1961 and 2020 52. So that tells me that that's an anomaly. And so, it's easy to get, on the hype train and buy high, sell low on different guys or, whatever. But, I think you just got to let the couple weeks ride out because, I think especially with a lot of guys not playing in the preseason, this week 1 is almost like the 4th preseason game for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, that's kind of where I want to go with my week one takeaway. It's the quarterback play, I would say. Obviously, Yaglu, Jordan Love out for 3 to 6 weeks. Joe Burrow looks like he's still hurt his wrist. He kept grabbing his wrist all game long. Deshaun Watson, who is ZB starting quarterback, looks awful, and it doesn't look like he's going to become who he was. I think at this point it's like, okay, I think this is who he is now. And then Caleb Williams, who was supposed to be this badass, looked awful, and that's Hodgson starting quarterback. So to tie into what Alex said, it's 4 quarterbacks who are starting in this league right now who looked awful. One's hurt. He looked good before he got hurt, but that's not good. So that again highlights the fact that I say every year, if you have a top tier quarterback, you keep that top tier quarterback. I would say from rounds 3 on, if you have a top tier quarterback, you keep them. You kind of have to have a badass quarterback to win in this league. I would say every quarterback who has a top tier guy who kept one, I think won this weekend. I think the only one who did was that not true?
No, I lost.
Oh, who's your top tier quarterback?
I got Joe Burrow.
Okay, yeah. Like I guess he's one of the outliers. And also the guy I played against, Josh Allen, but he was playing against Mahomes. Actually, no, I might be wrong. Actually, Josh Allen lost and Lamar Jackson lost. ZT lost, and so did Broden. So yeah, throw that out as well. But I will say top tier quarterbacks will help elevate you, and seeing guys who have bums, this kind of showcases the reason why you want to get a guy and stick with them. But all right, so we're gonna go to our week 2 predictions. We obviously on this show we always go by rankings, so we go from top to bottom, and I believe Alex is our 1 seed. So Alex is gonna get the first review here. Sorry, let me get there you go. Boom. Can you guys see that? If you guys zoom in on it, like the bottom right, you guys can see the big thing there. So Alex's first matchup is the top matchup of the week. It's given 69ers a try versus ZB. Cobb, I'm going to let you tackle this one.
Yeah, I mean, this one should be pretty quick. We already saw what Alex could do week 1, and then I honestly completely forgot that ZB was starting Deshaun Watson, and that was quite the blunder, to say the least, for week 1. But hey, that's why we're in the season. You got a lot of adjustments to make, but coming into this matchup, you almost don't need to look at these teams to lean towards Alex. But as we do on the show, we'll go matchup by matchup. We got CJ Stroud versus Stafford. Stroud and the Texans looked great. I mean, Diggs had a hot start to his Texans career. Nico Collins looked awesome. Really wishing I might have kept him. I let some other voices come in my head and make the trade for Burrow instead of keeping him. But again, you want a piece of that offense, and Stroud should succeed week after week. Talking about a tier 1 quarterback. You have Stafford on the other side. I do like Stafford more than Deshaun Watson, but with Puka Nacua out, Stafford's going to have to keep peppering Kupp like he did in years past. It's worked in years past, but I think it's kind of a limited upside QB. I think that's easy CJ Stroud, especially going against Chicago. Right, that's who we play next week. It's a little zoomed out.
Yeah, they're playing Chicago.
They couldn't. Their defense didn't look that great. I know they ended up winning that game because of the defense, but that was, I think, a blunder on Will Levis's part. But go to the next matchup. I just mentioned how Stafford has to start peppering Kupp with Puka Nacua out, and that's exactly who Alex has. Immediate cancellation for anything I think Stafford does next week against Arizona. Kupp looked great. Stafford and Kupp looked like they got right back to where they left off before Kupp was getting injured. Yeah, I mean, Stafford just doesn't need to look anywhere else. We've seen this again, and I think that was a great, I think, end of round 1 pickup, maybe beginning round 2 pickup for Kupp. I forget where he was, but great value pick there, and even more so now that Puka's out. Devonta Adams, I know Raiders look pretty rough. Now they're going against Baltimore. I mean, I think Kupp washes out Devonta Adams there just based off of, even if Puka was in, I think based off of last matchup, I would have said Kupp anyways. So give me Kupp there. Barkley and James Cook. I knew my matchup was over as soon as Saquon Barkley had the game that he had. I saw that slip and I was like, oh, maybe there's a chance that this is a little bit of a bust or a slow start to his Eagles tenure. But then he went off and got 4 touchdowns, something like that, or 3, 2 rushing, 1 receiving, something like that.
Do you regret drafting Bijan instead of him?
I don't regret anything after week 1. I'm not going to jump to conclusions yet. But goddamn, did that look good. Hey, Bijan still had a lot of opportunities. I think that'll cash in eventually. Steelers team is good. We don't need to talk about my team right now. Let's focus on Alex here. Give me Saquon in that matchup. I do like James Cook, but as we see, I mean, Josh Allen's. I mean, James Cook, I think, did get a few goal line carries.
He had a decent game. He looked good.
Yeah, I mean, he had a good game, but at the same time, I don't think he punched his goal line carries. And then Josh Allen did the Josh Allen rushed in.
Yep.
So limits the upside there. Do like James Cook a lot, but not against Barkley after what I saw. Freiermuth versus Kittle. I guess give me Kittle. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Justin Fields, who knows? Like, I think he's going to start again, and I think he'd like.
No, he is starting again.
Yeah, so like I think he did just enough. I don't really think he needs to pass too much. I mean, I think they won based off just kicking in their defense. But I'll go Kittle just because he has the higher upside of like having a breakout game. Jonathan Taylor against Rachaad White. I'm going to take Jonathan Taylor with the Green Bay defense that just got destroyed by Saquon Barkley. I do think that Indy offense is worse than the Eagles offense, but I mean, Anthony Richardson was slinging it decently, but I think they're going to lean on Jonathan Taylor in this game. Rachaad White, solid play. Tampa Bay looked great. Baker looked great. But I'm just going to go, and Detroit's defense isn't the best, but I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor there. Aaron Jones versus James Conner. Both of them had a great week ones. Both scored a touchdown. Aaron Jones, I still am questioning why Green Bay got rid of him. I like him. I've always liked him more than Josh Jacobs, honestly. And he did punch it in. Again, James Conner did too. Consistent guy, always seems to punch in a touchdown or at least give you some decent game. I think that's pretty close to a wash. Just to give ZB a bone, let me get James Conner there. Then we got Dobbins versus DJ Moore. J.K. Dobbins, another potential steal for Alex with how he looked on the Chargers offense. Do I think that that backfield could change by the week? Sure. I also think that Dobbins could have I think he had like 2 giant runs. And even those runs, like, I don't know, he looked a little hobbled still based off of everything that I've been seeing. But, I mean, he still had a monster game. That Chicago offense did not look great. Caleb Williams did not look great. And it could be just week 1 jitters with the new QB. But give me Dobbins. I just think they're going to feed the hot hand. He looked great last week. So give me Dobbins, especially against Carolina. Don't need to talk about the kickers or defense. So, again, no surprise. Could have made this decision a lot easier or earlier without having to go through every single matchup. But give me Alex pretty handedly. Does he get back-to-back points for us to start the season? I'm willing to put my money in yes. I love the matchups this week. I'm gonna go 152, which maybe not the highest points for a win for the week, but I don't know. I'm gonna go 152 to like. Let's call it 113. I think it's going to be a blowout.
Damn.
Yeah.
Alex, any comments on this one since it's your matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I really like – I'm not too worried about this matchup this week. And obviously, anytime you say that, that's when, some random guy goes off for like 40 points and you lose the game. But,
Bumps go off.
Yeah, so last week I was looking at my schedule. And, I felt pretty confident about this game. And so for me, I had a lot riding in week 1 because I do like Cobb's team a lot. And I know we'll get to this team here in a little bit. And so, it was kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, if you can get over that week 1 hump, you're in a really good spot to go 2-0. And obviously, anything can happen, in terms of, this season, especially when there's so many competitive teams. So getting off that 2-0 start is huge. So, obviously happy to get that week 1 win, looking to just roll that momentum forward this week. So yeah, got myself winning. We'll go 141 to 119.
Nice. Yeah, I think you win 145 to 110. I will say, I mean, for ZB's team being bad, not that bad of a team. I mean, I don't really see a guy like, oh, I wouldn't start him. He's got every guy in his lives like, yeah, they're startable guys. None of those guys are like, oh man, that's really shitty. He has him on his lineup because there's some teams that have guys like that. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How's that even possible?
The issue with his team is like his entire lineup is like flex 2 and flex 3 type of guys.
Yeah,
he's missing that star. He's missing that
low.
star power, and on top of it, when you're missing that star power, like you could at least have like a Josh Allen or someone at the quarterback position that can anchor you 30 points consistently. That can help, but he's missing that elite QB and that top tier guide. So yeah, I think it's hard to make the playoffs in this league with that setup.
Yeah, he had Burrow, so he dodged the bullet there, I think. All right, so our next matchup is the 2 seed Runaway McBride. That was last week. Sorry. Runaway McBride versus Tutu can Scoot. So it's Tasia versus Roden. Alex, take over this one, buddy.
Yeah, so looking at this matchup here, obviously right off the bat, you look at the projections, and Taja's already projected to win by 15 points. But when you dive into this matchup, and I'll go through it like Cobb did one by one, Hurts against Atlanta versus obviously in the prime time. They're both primetime games, which is interesting. You have the Monday night game and then the Thursday night game with Miami and Buffalo. I think, I think Atlanta's defense is decent. I really think that game on Thursday is going to be a shootout. You never know, but I just think it is. Honestly, I think it's pretty even, but with right now, with Saquon having a hot hand and the tush push not being as successful in week one, I think I could see Saquon stealing a goal line or two from Hurts. And right now, Josh Allen is QB1 and RB1 on that team, especially in the red zone. So I'll give a slight edge to Josh Allen. Tyreek Hill all day right now over Nico. So we'll take Tyreek. We'll also go Brees over Swift. Swift, that whole offense. I do think Swift's going to have, good fantasy production down the stretch, but especially with, a whole new team coming in and a rookie quarterback, I think it's going to take them several weeks to get their, feet underneath them offensively. So we'll go Brees. McBride over Kincaid. I mean, that can be a wash. He does have the stack with Josh Allen. So like if he does get that touchdown, it's kind of a 2-for-1 there, but I think he had a goose egg week one or maybe one catch. So you got to imagine they're going to try to incorporate him a little bit. I'll give the slight edge to McBride just because Kincaid didn't do too much, but pretty even there. ETN, Chase. Again, Chase with Burrow banged up, in Arrowhead. That's going to be a tough matchup. And then obviously ETN against Cleveland. I honestly, I got that pretty even as well. I like Rashid Rice over Neighbors here. Again, Daniel Jones, I just can't trust him right now. I do think that he's, Neighbors is the guy they're going to go to. I just think right now, I don't know what's wrong with Daniel Jones. One, never been a big fan of him, but two, I mean, I just looking at him, he looked like his game has regressed. I mean, he looks like he's in his head. He looks like a disaster. So Neighbors is really touchdown dependent to have a legitimate, fantasy performance right now. So we'll go Rashid Rice, especially with how much volume he's getting in the slot. And then Taysom Hill versus Godwin. I mean, that's a joke. So we'll go Godwin all day. Looking at this, there's maybe one or two positions you could give the nod to have Roden, edge out Tasia's guy. But overall, I'm leaning, even if you're generous, giving him like Josh Allen and maybe Jamar Chase. Overall, I got this 5-2 in the top 7 head to head. So I got Tasia in a blowout here. I actually think that this is the biggest margin win. I think it's a bigger margin win. Knock on wood, hopefully, with my game against CB here. So we'll go Tasia. I think he puts up a lot of points. Let's go 151 to 107.
Jesus. Okay. Cobb, projection?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those teams where like it doesn't look too bad, but then you get to the bottom there. I mean, Neighbors looked good, but again, like Alex said, Giants offense is not great. Taysom Hill flex is hilarious. But give me Tasia pretty handedly. Let's do a 147 to 117.
Yeah. Okay. Now I understand why he's going with. It's a really bad bench, man. We talked about this during the draft. That was a really awful bench. Like
he could have had Cup instead of Neighbors at that whatever it was 106, 107 pick.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. I was scared for a little bit. He had me on the ropes a little bit, and then Joe Mixon was fucking a badass, man. As that game went on with 30 carries or 29 carries, unreal. That was a nice blast in the pass performance. I love Taja's team. Rashee Rice, like I said, is going to have probably 100+ catches. Chris Godwin looked amazing. Baker didn't really target him a lot last year. Towards the end of the year, you saw it a little bit more, but Chris Godwin looks like what Rashee Rice looks like in our offense. So he's got two guys who are going to be peppered with a lot of targets this year, a lot of catches. So, I think Taja's off to a really good start. Alex and Tasia both really came out the gates hot. But, yeah, I mean, we talked about it. Tasia had a top 4 team going into the season. But, yeah, I will say I wasn't a Dalton Kincaid fan, and I'm really happy I didn't buy any stock of his because that's the way that they're going to play. I mean, like, wait, how many targets did he even have in that game? Like 2, 3?
He had 2 targets.
That's terrible. I mean, forget about the catches. If he had like 1 catch, but like 5 or 6 targets, but do 2 targets, and they won the game too. So it's like, is that the recipe for success for them? Like to spread the ball around all over the place? And also too, I'm not really a big fan of tight ends who are in a 1A, 1B kind of thing with him and Dawson Knox. And on top of that, Keon Coleman, Shakir. It's a lot of guys on that team. So yeah, Kincaid might be one of those up and down type tight ends. But yeah, for where he drafted him, not worth it at all. And I don't think Kincaid's gonna be key for him this year. But yeah, Taysom Hill, his last flex is gonna be a disaster all year long. That's gonna be his demise. Yeah. So yeah, Tasia wins 160 to 101. Yeah,
160. Wow.
Yeah, I think Tasia's the highest. I changed my pick. Tasia's gonna be the highest score of the week, not Alex.
Yeah, that's what happens with Road. I mean, like, just think about it. He took Neighbors and Kincaid 1 and 2 at his first and second round pick. Like, he could have gone Kupp and Aaron Jones, or there's plenty of guys that blew up week 1 that he passed on both ways. Like, taking those upside youth, is great in rounds 5 through 10. When you can actually have keeper value out of it.
I'll tell you what, though, he's got a shot. Achane and Mostert haven't practiced yet this week, so Wright could be starter this week. And if he's lucky as hell if that happens, but I doubt both those guys are going to be out. So, all right, so I'll take on this one. This is the 3rd seed versus the 11th seed. One disappointing guy and one guy who, right off the bat, is already woeing people a little bit because people, the debate is tomorrow night. Wait, where'd Cobb go? Jesus. Cobb?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Yeah, technical difficulties here. Internet down 1 second. Jesus. Wow. All right. Well, I'm gonna go right along here. So yeah, usually we talk about it every year. It's election night, election year. Stu sucks, but Stu put up some good points last week, and Stu beat a good foe. And Adam, Adam had a CMC who didn't play at the last second, but Stu still was up a good amount for that. So CMC would have had a really good night in order to win that matchup. But yeah, I gotta say, the debate fell on a Tuesday night this year. So Stu's not going to be missing starting lineups, any changes, because the debate's Tuesday night. So Stu gets his first win, then he's got a debate Tuesday night to watch, and then boom, the next week 2 games start 2 days after that. So Stu's all right so far. Good for him. And then CT. I'm going to talk a lot about him later on in the show when we do something called the Pancake King rankings, and that's where I'll live with ZT. But for now, let's go 1v1 here. Anthony Richardson against the Green Bay Packers. Lamar Jackson versus they're playing the Raiders this week. Jeez. I honestly will say I'm going to say wash here because I think Richardson's going to have a good game. The Green Bay's defense was really shitty last week. I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, you guys played pretty good against the pass with the Chargers, although they didn't really throw that much. I do worry about Lamar kind of having a big game running the ball, but he's been hurt so far this week, not missing practice. But I think it's going to be a wash. Richardson looked really good last week, kind of doing a little bit of everything. So I'll give it a wash. Mike Evans versus St. Brown. I'm going to go Mike Evans, man. Mike Evans looked phenomenal last week against the Commanders. Terrible secondary. But Detroit couldn't stop Kupp last week. And I know they're a little different types of receivers. But I'll tell you what, Mike Evans looked amazing. St. Brown didn't really do much of anything against the Rams. I don't think he's going to have another dismal performance like that. But I got to say, I like the way Baker just targets him up the wazoo. So I'm going to go there with that one. Kyron Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm going to go Kyron Williams. Everyone thought Blake Corum was going to come into that backfield and be the guy. Not the guy, but take a lot of snaps from Kyron Williams. No. Kyron Williams is not only getting your running back snaps, he's also your punt returner too. And Jahmyr Gibbs is splitting. And when I say splitting, he's losing carries to David Montgomery. It's like, I think he had 10 carries last week, and Montgomery had like 18, so almost double the amount of carries that Gibbs had. I don't like that 1A, 1B going on over there. Kyron Williams doesn't really have a 1B guy. Everyone thought Corum was going to be that guy. It's not the case. So I'm going to go Kyron Williams here. Sam Laporta versus Travis Kelce. I've done a lot of research on this whole thing. It looks like the Chiefs are going into this season with a more of a load management kind of approach to Travis Kelce this year. They want him to last. They want him to last till the playoffs. And they're going with a load management kind of approach. We're seeing more Noah Gray than we have before. Rashee Rice is doing a lot of the intermediate routes that Kelce usually gets. And we just have a lot of guys over there, and they don't need to use Kelce like they used to. And maybe it was a 1 week thing last year. Kyle Hamilton's a really good safety, and he did well. Kelce dominated in the playoffs. They doubled him a lot last week. I get it. But I just feel like it's going to be kind of a load management kind of thing where he's going to be coming out of a lot of games. Meanwhile, Sam Laporta, that's like their guy over there. I mean, I think he had the most targets of all their receivers last week. Well, actually, between St. Brown and Laporta had more targets. Jameson Williams actually had the most targets of all their pass catchers last week, which is interesting development. But I'm going to go Sam Laporta over Travis Kelce here. DK Metcalf and Ayuk. I mean, Metcalf's going against New England. New England was pretty stout last week. I'm going to go Ayuk against Minnesota next week. So I'm going to go Ayuk there. Kamara versus Najee. I'm going to go Kamara. Denver's got a pretty – I don't know, man. I don't buy Pittsburgh, though, so that's tough for me there. I'm going to go Kamara. I think Kamara will have a better all-around game, but pretty close, though, because Denver didn't do anything against Kenneth Walker last week. Sorry. And Calvin Ridley versus Brian Robinson Jr. I'm going to go Brian Robinson Jr., so I'll throw ZT a bone there. So he gets two on this one. So I got to say, I'm really disappointed with ZT just in general. He just hasn't been the best. He hasn't been the best owner the last few years. And I don't know if this is like a girlfriend thing. I don't know if Crystal's like kind of dominating him or something, that like this is just like kind of, I don't know. He's kind of lost it over the last few years. But people are getting worried. People are saying he might need to blow it up if he loses this week. I'm not saying that as of yet. We need to see what's going on, how he starts off the season. Some guys, start off the season pretty slow, and ZT tends to start off the season slow as of late, and then the whole season becomes slow. But I'm going to go Stu here. Like I said earlier, when you weren't on, that it was a surprise for Stu to come out the gates like this, especially on a week where the debate is happening. But he was able to get his win on a Monday. That tonight he's got the debate, so he's kind of has an action-packed week for himself. But I'm going to go Stu wins 134 to ZT's 114. Stu puts it on ZT big time. Yeah. Alex, projection for this one?
I was looking at this game. Just like the projection show, they got it within 2 points. I can make an argument for almost every single matchup being, a wash. Like you could give a slight edge in each matchup. I just think this is ridiculously close in a coin flip. I could really see this game going either way. I will say though, I know it's week 2. It's very early in the season, but I mean, is this a must win for ZT? He's 0-2 if he loses this game. And there's some good teams out there. And there's some, not saying average, but there's some teams that are kind of in the wash that based off of, that are kind of in that middle pack, that based off matchups have a shot to either go 2-0 or at least 1-1 this week. Getting that 2-0 or 0-2 hole, that could be a death sentence in this league because we know how the trajectory goes, especially as we get down the stretch. So I'm saying this is a must win for ZT. With that being said, again, I got this a coin flip. I'm actually going to go ZT winning. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to go ZT winning by 2. So I'm going to go like 121 to 119 for ZT, but only because he needs to win this. Other than that, I do see this being very close.
Cobb?
Yeah, sorry I missed the beginning of this analysis, but it is an interesting team. I mean, we heard ZT saying he wished he had his team from last year, which you don't really want to hear an owner saying they want to just completely change the team in week one. I know he's saying that he would have some of the same pieces that he does this year, but like, come on, man, like you got to move on. This is a great spot for ZT to get some revenge on Stu. Stu didn't come swinging out the gate. I do think ZT will pull this off barely, just barely. Let's call it a 121-118 win for ZT in a close one.
Wow, so we're split on this one. Isn't this the rematch of the playoff game where ZT has started an IDP player that didn't play?
Yeah, maybe he ends up starting a kicker that didn't play because the kicker he had got cut. So
yeah, he's gonna pick the Raiders kicker every time. Yeah, so okay, we're split on this one. You guys both have ZT. I got Stu in this one. Interesting. All right, so next matchup here we got. So that was the third seed. Okay, so yeah, the fourth seed. This is myself versus Yaglu. Cobb, take it away here, buddy.
Yeah, this is a funny matchup because obviously the team name involved, but also because this is your guy, Yags, your team, the team that you said to watch out for, and what a rough start. After hearing him nonstop for about 2 weeks come after me and Alex for saying these guys were talking shit about my team, these guys don't like my team, and what did he do? He got the lowest points in the week. I mean, and now his QB's injured. Like, oh man, this is brutal. But this is exactly what I said week one was. This is the in-season management's what I need to see from Yags to put him to the next level. And this is exactly. It's a tough spot, but we'll see if he can navigate it. And now he has to come in to this week after just scoring the lowest points to play Dash, which is one of the more dominant teams in recent and just league history, and honestly looking like one of the more dominant teams that we're going to have this season yet again. But going matchup by matchup, whoever he ends up playing as QB, maybe it's going to be Geno. I hope it's not because he's going against New England's defense, and New England's defense just shut out Burrow. Granted, there were some other reasons there, I think, but Seattle's offense looked brutal outside of Kenneth Walker last week. Give me Mahomes against Cincinnati. Cincinnati did just lose at home to New England, so maybe there's some sort of edge or chip on their shoulder, but give me Mahomes every time. Debo against Justin Jefferson. You know, with McCaffrey out, it was nice, I'm sure, for you to see Debo getting some handoffs. I think his touchdown was a rushing touchdown. So I know Jordan Mason was the talk of the town, but Debo did get a lot more work because CMC was out. Justin Jefferson still had a nice week. He got that touchdown, which helped a lot, but I think San Francisco is going to come out swinging. I like Debo's matchup a lot more. I know they're playing each other, but I'm going to go Debo here over Justin Jefferson, which is probably not something I thought I would be saying even a few weeks ago, but give me Debo. Derrick Henry against Josh Jacobs. This is an interesting one. I think I said in the preseason analysis of the teams that Yags is going to go. It's going to be a win-loss situation with Derrick Henry. You either hope he gets a touchdown or else it's a stinker of a week. He got his touchdown last week. They have a decent matchup this week, but I think it's going to be the Lamar show. He only ended up with 10 points despite the touchdown, which, again, Chiefs defense pretty solid, but that kind of scares me a little bit. I do like Josh Jacobs. We just saw what Mixon did to this Indy defense, so give me Josh Jacobs there. Dallas Goedert versus Cole Kmet. Give me Dallas Goedert. He needs another tight end. That's all I'm going to say there. Joe Mixon versus Devonta Smith. Again, we just saw Joe Mixon go into the Fountain of Youth, pull out a stellar performance against Indy last week. I did like Devonta Smith's involvement with the Eagles. Mixon going in Chicago, they looked okay. Tony Pollard had a good game against them, and I like Joe Mixon a little more than them or him. But I don't think he's going to be going in and getting 30 attempts this week. I think this is going to be a great Stroud game. But I don't know. I might just give that one a wash. I like both matchups. I don't feel that strongly about either at the moment. So yeah, I'll go wash. Maybe slightly leaning Mixon based off of last week. McLaurin versus Demont. McLaurin was the receiver I was super excited about coming into the season. Had a stinker over week 1, like a lot of people did. Despite Jaden Daniels looking really, fantasy-wise, looking great. Like, that's a quarterback that you probably want in fantasy, where he has such a high floor because of his rushing ability. I did see that the Commanders came out saying they want to see Jaden Daniels pass more. Maybe we see that this week against the Giants team that is complete ass. So will that happen? Maybe. I love David Montgomery as just a player and a fantasy asset. I think he has a really safe floor. I like, obviously, between Gibbs and Montgomery, you probably want to lean Gibbs a little bit there, but like, Montgomery's so solid, and you saw what they did in overtime. They leaned on him heavily. It paid off, won him the game. So give me David Montgomery there in that matchup. I think Keenan Allen versus Devin Singletary. I don't want anyone other than maybe Neighbors in that Giants offense. So give me Keenan. He had 11 targets. Were they great targets? No, but I do think Caleb Williams gets better as the weeks go on. I'm going to take the targets there over a Giants player all day. So probably easy to tell. Would have probably decided this on the quarterback matchup. I'm taking Dash here. Pretty solid victory, I think. I'm going to go 135 to 102. I hope Mike does, cross that 100-point threshold despite his QB situation. I think that's going to really shake it, and his tight end situation is really going to shape out the week. But I think there's just too much of a hill to climb for him this week.
So I'll have a comment here. So I do think I'm going to win. I will say I scored a 129 this past week, but I will say I did some research on defense. I'm revamping my whole defense. I had the lowest score on defense from anybody in the league last week. I did 9 combined for my 3 guys. So let's just say it's going to take me a while to really get this whole defensive tackle D-line thing, because it was pretty tough for me last week. Not good. A 9 combined for 3 guys was awful. Luckily, Fairbairn had 17, so I was able to kind of get out of that the 9 there. Awful though. But yeah, I think this is it's a good week 2 opponent. I know I'm a big Yags guy. I think he's have a bright future. I think this year he might have, when Jordan Love comes back, hopefully he can weather the storm while Love is gone. But it's a shame that Love got hurt, because I think Yag probably would have won if Love didn't. No, because that was the end of the game anyway, so I don't think it would have mattered. But I think Yaglu would be in a better position right now if Love didn't get hurt. I think he would have had a pretty good game this week against the Colts. But I think I'm going to win this one pretty easily. And I might rival for point score of the week. I don't think I'm going to get it, but I'll be up there. So I'm going to give myself 142 to 96 is my my projection. So.
Yeah, I got Dash winning this game as well here. I don't think it's going to be the biggest blowout of the week, but I still got him. I like the Derrick Henry matchup against the Raiders. I think he's going to have a great game. But you just go down the list, like Justin Jefferson, who's his big hitter. San Fran defense looked pretty dominant last night. And then obviously him having to start Geno Smith, assuming he doesn't, there's not really that many great options on the waiver wire. So in Geno Smith in that game too, like, I'm just not excited about that. So yeah, I just think he doesn't have enough that's overwhelming to be able to compete in this game. Let's go. I think you score 129 again. We'll go 129 to 102.
I'll take it. And I'll say one thing about you mentioned Keenan Allen, Cobb. Not a great game by any means, but the fact that he was the go-to guy that he continued to go to, and that was what I was hoping for with Keenan Allen being that guy for him. I really did love that. To 12 targets was I'll take that.
And Odunze's out for a little bit.
Yeah, Odunze's week to week, so
it's only going to grow from here on out. So I do love that. That's one of the reasons why I drafted him, was hoping that he'd be that safety valve. And that's the thing. Like, some of the targets he was getting were like wheel routes, like deep ball shots, and like that's not really Keenan's game, which I thought was interesting. Maybe they might change that up this week, but hey, if he's getting 12 targets, I'll take that any day of the week. So he's only going to capitalize on that at some point. So All right, so now we're going to our next matchup. We have so we're looking at the sorry. 4. We did 4. We did 3. We did 2. Okay, Lil J. It's Cobb. Okay, this is your matchup. Okay, Alex, do this matchup. This is
So I think this is the first matchup that we've gone through where the higher seeded team is not favored in the projections. We can see here Yahoo has Cobb projected to win by I think 7 points right now. But going into this matchup, kind of one by one here, I'm going to go into it with the blank slate. Don't have any favorites right now, but let me dive into it and see who I think has the edge. So obviously Burrow going into Arrowhead, there's with his banged up hand right now, and we know that Mahomes and the Chiefs, anytime that Burrow comes in there, especially after two years ago where everyone was calling him Burrowhead, they have a chip in their shoulder now when he comes in there to play with him banged up. And really, I mean, their front office being a little cocky and really not adding a lot of pieces over the last 2 years to support him. I don't think he's going to be electric, but then you also have Brock Purdy, who's a game manager. So at the same time, like I don't think, Purdy's not someone that's, he's a very safe floor. He's not someone that's going to drop 35 points. So I will say though, especially if KC gets out to a lead, because I think KC's definitely going to win this game. If they get out to a lead, like you could have some garbage time points for Burrow. So there is upside there. But I mean, I kind of honestly have this as a wash, the 2 quarterback, play here until Burrow shows us something. I got this kind of as a wash at this point. Zay Flowers Pickens, it's kind of a similar situation. Like, Zay Flowers, clearly the number 1 target for them. Same with Pickens, but it's kind of the same thing. Like, they both have big playability, but when you look at that offense, like you look at Justin Fields, who's going to be starting again this week, and then obviously Lamar, both of those guys are almost run first. And so, the Zay Flowers and Pickens, like they're kind of, to me, I don't know if they're wide receiver 1 caliber. So again, I think it's almost a wash. I will say though, against the Raiders, like I could see Baltimore putting a bunch of points up. As a Raiders fan, I after how week 1 went, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we get smacked. I do think the Steelers end up beating Denver, but it's going to be another gritty game, kind of similar to how they, pulled out that win in Atlanta where it's, under 20 points scored. So I'll give Zay Flowers the edge, but it's razor close, very close there. Pacheco versus Bijan. I think this is going to be close again. I'll give the edge to Bijan here. But obviously Philly's got a pretty decent defense. Again, one thing to note, having Pacheco, for Little J here, depending how this game goes, he could, especially if the Chiefs are up, he could get a lot of rushing upside in that game, especially in that second half. But we'll go Bijan just by a little bit. Mark Andrews versus Evan Ingram. This is another weird matchup where both of them, I think, had like 1 catch last week. So again, we'll kind of go a wash here until someone steps up. Garrett Wilson, Stephon Diggs. I think in this matchup, I'm actually going to lean Garrett Wilson. I know Diggs came off a 2-touchdown performance, but you take away those 2 touchdowns, and he didn't do that much. And obviously Chicago's defense won in the game last week. I think Tennessee's defense is not as good as San Fran. So clearly last night, Aaron Rodgers was only looking to him in that first half until they started basically, triple teaming him. So we'll go Garrett Wilson. Achane, again, he's banged up. So I don't even know what his status is. Jerome Ford looked like a bell cow until, right now with obviously with, being the lead back right now. So we'll go Ford. Brian Thomas versus Ramondre. Ramondre had a great game. Brian Thomas, I think at this point is kind of touchdown dependent. So I'll go Ramondre again. So looking at this again on paper, before I went through matchup by matchup, I was looking at this thinking this is pretty close. I think that Cobb has the edge here in almost every single matchup by a fraction. So like, even though when I just went through it, I was like, oh yeah, I got this guy at the edge. It's a 1 or 2 point margin. And so when you compound it with all 7 guys, I do think he wins this game, but I still think that Lil J keeps it close. Cobb, same spot as ZT, needs to win this, right? Going 0-2 is not a spot you want to be in. So a lot of pressure on him this week. I'm going to go – I actually kind of like these projections. I'm going to go Cobb winning 123 to 111.
Cobb, what do you say about your matchup, buddy?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything across the board. Kind of looking at my team Monday and earlier today, I am getting the sense that this team really needs to develop. I think it's going to take some time to really hit the ground running. Burrow, Bengals usually struggle in the beginning of the season. KC is at the get right spot, probably not. I loved Zay Flowers and Bijan's involvement in the offense. I just am hoping this year that Zay gets his targets a little deeper. I think he looked great. I just need to see his targets a little deeper. Bijan, kind of a blunder performance by Cousins. So like they couldn't really do too much, but they were using Bijan a lot. Evan Ingram, I'm kind of using that as a excuse, like just the performance is like a wash. I think Kyle Pitts was the number 1 tight end last week. Well, likely, but like Pitts was one of the best tight ends, and that's just because he got a touchdown and he didn't really score that much. Garrett Wilson, loved how much Rodgers trusted him. He's the guy. 49ers a great defense, so I think that's going to be good. Ford, loved seeing him get 6 targets on top of how many times. I mean, again, in a terrible matchup or how the game played out, love seeing Ford. Ramondre Stevenson, same thing. Love seeing the involvement. The people on my bench, I have Olave and Marvin Harrison Jr. They're still kind of developing. That's where I'm kind of getting to the point where I think there's some guys on my team that I think will be difference makers down the line for me. They're just not there yet. So I think I'm probably at a lower ceiling than I will be in a few weeks, but I do like myself over Jack this week. Let's give myself. I like the 123. I'll go 125 to motivate my guys a little bit to a 118. I think it will be a close game. I don't think I could have handed to Jack or anything like that, but I do think my team starts to pick it up a little bit. But it's easy to say when I just scored like 90 points.
Yeah, I love this. I love the Thursday night kicking duel between these two guys, Bass versus Sanders. Yeah, I did just well, Alex was doing that. I kind of went back and forth to seeing who I like and where it was spot. If HN plays, I like. I have 4 positions going to Cobb, 3 positions going to Lil J. But I will say if HN doesn't play, I will say I was surprised at how much touches he got. I mean, Mostert got like next to nothing last week. It was all HN, which was pretty surprising. I don't know if it was game script because they were down the whole time, so they kind of went to throw mode, had thrown a lot of checkdowns to him. But yeah, he got a lot. Even when they got to red zone, HN was still in there, and I was very surprised being a Mostert owner. Very upset by that, and very surprised that HN dominated the way he did. But all that being said, I don't like Burrow this week, but I also don't like Purdy. So like even if Burrow doesn't have a good week, it's not like Purdy's going to blow him out of the water as far as points wise. I will say you did mention the fact that Burrow weeks 1 and 2 in his career, 1 and 8 in his career, weeks 1 and 2 in a season, 12 touchdowns and 9 interceptions in weeks 1 and 2 in his career. Pretty crazy how bad he is out the gate. So if you do start 0 and 2, you're going the way of your quarterback. So hopefully you got the bounce back for week 3 on if you do go 0 and 2.
Dude, do I start Tua? Maybe.
Ooh, no. I mean, it's at Miami in September, so it's not like it's at Buffalo in December. So
yeah.
But and I will say their defense looked pretty shitty last week too, so that's not a bad move. But yeah, the thing that would concern me is the whole wrist. He was doing too much of this before the game. Apparently, he shot basketballs before the game to get his wrist warmed up. If you look at it throughout the game, he kept holding his wrist. The commentators kept talking about it. He grabbed water on the bench at one point during the game, and he had to guide it with his other hand because he couldn't lift it up with his hand. Just weird. I mean, yeah, it was a rare injury that he had last year. So that is definitely concerning. But Tua is not a bad option if you did want to go that way. I mean, I still think Burrow and Purdy's more of a wash. I think Tua would actually be an upgrade over Burrow, but I still give you quarterback either way. On that, actually, no, I have Purdy. Actually, I have Purdy for Little J over Burrow this week. So I think Tua would give. I would give Tua the edge over Burrow. That's my personal opinion. But
it's also interesting, and I think it's. I mean, I don't hate the decision, but Little J is rolling with Purdy right now over Kyler, who he has on his bench.
Did he start Kyler last week though?
I think he did.
Kyler second half of the game was kind of weak.
Yeah, not involving MHJ enough.
Dude, that is the most wild thing, and that's the elephant in the room we're talking about. You're not even starting him right now. I mean, that's
or Olave right now. He's on my bench.
That's wild to me. Well, it also that's another wild thing. They scored 50 points last week, and you would think Olave had dominated. You go to his numbers, like 2 catches, 11 yards. Like, what the fuck?
I just don't. It was just like one of those things. I don't think he was really needed. But at the same time, we saw this last season where Carr and Shaheed have that thing going on, and
They do.
Why does he not? I don't know. Olave is way better, but Carr needs to stop being a douchebag. Throw it to my guy.
Yeah, I do think you win. I'll give it 129 to 120. 120. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Carr. Sorry, just go back to that score. He only threw for 200 yards last game.
They didn't need to do much with him.
They didn't need to do much. It's just that's crazy to win by that much, and your quarterback can only throw 200. But hey, we'll see.
All right, so I believe this is our last matchup of the week right here, right?
Yeah.
All right, Cobb, take us away with this match between Hotch and A. Millie.
Yeah. Won the championship rematch from
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah.
The Damar Hamlin game.
Yeah, where Adam let his chance at immortality slip away and let Hotch continue his reign. A lot of people give him some asterisks to Hotch still to this day. Not one of them. Just saying they're out there. Hotch escaping week 1 with a win. I don't think he wanted to win, but he did. He would have lost to every single team except for Yags. I think that also happened last year as well, where he was the second lowest scorer, but ended up winning that week. Again, things just seem to work out for Hotch in this league, even if he doesn't want it to happen. Let's go matchup to matchup. Obviously, Adam sitting nice at oh wait, no, did he lose? He lost. Never mind. But he's the top. Like he had one of the better performances of the teams that lost, at least. But go matchup to matchup. Jaden Daniels against Dak Prescott. Dak didn't really need to do much against the Browns defense, which is honestly, is it because Deshaun Watson sucked, or is it because the Browns defense isn't as good as, I don't know. Dak just didn't need to do too much. That the Dallas Cowboys seem to be in control the whole time, and I'd be worried if they can do that against the Browns defense. I 100% could see them doing against New Orleans. Jaden Daniels, on the other hand, has an extremely high floor based off of what we saw week 1, and now he's going against the Giants. I'm actually probably going to take Jaden Daniels in this matchup. I think, again, wouldn't have thought I'd be doing this early in the season, but just seeing that how much he rushed last week was wild, and he scored 2 touchdowns that way. Really exciting to see that quarterback play week 2. I'm sure ZT is up in his offers as we talk to Hotch to get Jaden Daniels on the squad. But give me Jaden Daniels in that matchup. CeeDee Lamb against AJ Brown. That's a great counter to anything that Adam can do with Dak. You saw that they both, CeeDee and Dak, got paid. They want to involve them. He had 10 targets. He also had some rushing attempts as well. I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb slightly. I do know that AJ Brown had a great game last week, but I just like CeeDee. I just trust CeeDee's involvement, and I trust the Dallas offense a little more just because CeeDee is really the only place they can go, whereas Jalen Hurts has Saquon and Devonta Smith. Close matchup, but give me CeeDee. Jordan Mason against Kenneth Walker. I'm sure Adam is looking over at Hotch and just cringing, wanting to throw some bad words his way because he has his handcuff and CMC. Being out is can't be fun. Obviously looked really good, as any running back I think in that offense has looked good. I think he had one of the best performances of an undrafted running back that we've seen. Do I think he repeats that performance? Hard for me to say yes, but I think Kenneth Walker also looked really good. But in this case, he's going against New England. I really like our defense. I think it's going to be a tougher matchup than it was against Denver. Damn, this is a tough one. I might just go Jordan Mason just because of the schemes that San Fran does. Like, they always seem to make running backs productive regardless of who it is. And poor Adam is missing out on some amazing points from CMC, a guy that he kept in the first round, despite people saying that he maybe shouldn't have, for especially getting clarity on that injury. And we hear that he's might be out for a little longer than we first expected. So Jordan Mason seems to be a steal for Hotch. Brock Bowers against Kyle Pitts. I was impressed to see how engaged Brock Bowers was in this offense already. I don't think he didn't have the yardage, but he had 8 targets out the gate against Kyle Pitts, who, again, was at least being looked at. He got a touchdown, but still didn't really produce. I mean, he had 26 yards receiving. I'm going to go Kyle Pitts, though, just because he's going against Philly. Bowers going against Baltimore. I think Baltimore's defense is going to terrorize Vegas a little bit. So give me Pitts there. Drake London against Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy, another just surprise, I guess, of how involved he was. I mean, already had 2 touchdowns, looking like another weapon for the Chiefs, which is just the last thing anyone wanted the Chiefs to have against Drake London, who, again, question marks. I was over here touting the Atlanta offense and took a nice egg on my face for that. Prediction, will it fix itself? I hope so. I think so. Wouldn't panic 100% yet. I think it's still too early for me to give Xavier Worthy the edge. I'm going to give Drake London just the benefit of the doubt here. It's not like a strong edge or anything like that. It's more of a Worthy getting those 2 touchdowns. But, you know, he could blow the roof off of any defense. So give me London barely there. Waddle against Pollard. Waddle had a decent game, and so did Pollard. I was surprised how they just kind of, I mean, I guess all camp they were saying Pollard was going to be the guy. Tajay Spears was a popular pickup last year that should have taken over the backfield, didn't do it. And Pollard was disappointing last year, but seems to be taking over this Tennessee offense. I'm going to give Pollard the edge here against Waddle, just based off of usage. And then we have, I didn't notice that CMC was in Adam's left spot. Just hope, I guess it's just a prayer, hoping that he plays against Keon Coleman. I'm going to assume that CMC does not play this week. And I don't know who we plug it in. Probably Chase Brown. Who did
remember, he drafted Chase Brown like 3 rounds before Zach Moss went.
Crazy. So I don't know. I guess, I mean, if CMC plays, obviously giving the edge to Adam there, and then that also takes away a player for Hodge. But give me Keon Coleman, assuming that Adam has to look elsewhere, regardless of what that matchup looks like. And man, week 2, I'm already thinking Hodge is going to win. I think we might all be in just collective shock right now. I was going through these matchups, and I'm like, how is this possible? How does he have a serviceable team? And this motherfucker, part of the language, continues to make it work. Projections have Adam winning just because of CMC, but I'm predicting CMC doesn't play. Give me Hodge. God damn it, that little guy. God, he knows how to squeak him out, man. Give me 119 to 112.
Yeah, I mean, it's all like luck as far as who he's playing these first 2 weeks. So, like, I mean, it's timed out. It's not his team's good. It's just like who he's played the last 2 weeks. I mean, he had 90 points in a win. I mean, dude, it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Alex, who do you have in this one?
Yeah, I went through, like, right when you were talking, I went through it in my head just like really quick without even doing any analysis. I had Hodge winning right off the bat. And, you know, when you look at these projections, I was like, okay, you know, obviously I know last week Hodge got lucky. He won, put up like 90 points or whatever. And, you know, Adam lost in a tough game, but there's a reason why he's a 7 seed, because he, you know, put up more points than a couple teams that actually won. And so, you know, you look at these projections, it's like, all right, things are going to get back to how they should be. Adam's going to win this game. Hodge is going to lose. And you start going through it, and then you get to the bottom and you realize that he's got CMC in his lineup and he's still projected the full 18. And then you just think about it, like, okay, so reports are looking like CMC is going to be out. So Jordan Mason's projection is probably going to bump up immediately to a 14-15. And then you're going to take out those 18 points and plug him in with like 6 or 7 points from his abysmal bench who might not do anything. And that's a big swing. And that basically puts you at 50-50. And the projections, when that happens, come 1 p.m. game time on Sunday. And, you know, you just start looking at these, and I just think Hodge has some favorable matchups. And I just think that little bastard pulls it off again. So I think Hodge goes 2-0. And which is interesting, because if he does go 2-0, like, at what point, you know, Hodge has been talking about, Pancake King. I want to load up next year and get all these, get the first overall pick and all this stuff. If he goes 2-0 and he's got young upside that are putting up boom or bust points on the board, I mean, he has a shot to compete. Unfortunately, didn't think I'd be saying that, but again, he could easily lose this matchup. I think it will be close. So scoring wise, I think Hotch winning 119 to 113. I think it will be close, so it's not like a lock that he's going to win. But I think I got him winning this one.
Yeah, and also to add to this whole thing, so the McCaffrey on one end, he's losing him, and then the other side, he's got the handcuffs, so he's going to have those points. Then on top of that, he got Dak, and he's got CeeDee Lamb, so any touchdown that goes to CeeDee Lamb, that's washed away in favoring Lamb because of the point for PPR. So there's two things where he gets fucked in this whole thing, which is just crazy. And also, too, if he does go 2-0, Hodge could decide to trade those picks that he got to get players to really bolster this team to be a competitive team right now to go for, a 4-peat?
4-peat.
Which, for God's sakes, I hope that doesn't happen. So I think Hodge does win this game. I wouldn't be surprised if he loses because it's going to be close. Xavier Worthy looked great last week. I'm not denying that, but let's also come back to reality. He only had 3 touches. And he had 2 catches for 43 yards on a touchdown, and then he had the one reverse, which got him a touchdown. So, it also, Hollywood Browns might come back this week, so that also take away Xavier Worthy targets. I love Xavier Worthy. I loved what he did in that game, but it was only 3 touches. So, I'm not going to say it's every week thing. I don't like Drake London, but I do think Drake London. Philly looked awful last week. Their defense looked shitty. I think Drake London will have a better game than Xavier Worthy just because of volume. I can't see Xavier Worthy having 2 touchdowns again. I'd be very shocked if that happens. But yeah, I do think Hodge wins this week. And I'm going to go old school kind of barn burner, 109 to 104 kind of game, kind of how he did it with Yaglu last week. So that's the only way I see him winning this matchup, making him play down to his level. So, but yeah, crazy how Hodge has had this luck with these 2 matchups, man. All right. So that does it for the projections for this week. So now we're going to get to the nitty gritty here, boys. You know what that means? Hold on. God damn it. All right. So yeah, now we're going to get to the Pancake King rankings. And the Pancake King rankings are brought to you by IHOP, the home of the stack. It's pumpkin pancake season, guys. It's fall. So you know what? IHOP comes out with their limited time only pancakes and the pumpkin pancake stack, which is out right now at IHOP. So go on and get that from our sponsor, IHOP. All right. So with this, so we're going to go kind of how we did, kind of rapid fire kind of deal. So we're going to go through 7 to 12. Kind of give me one sentence as to why this team is your 7th spot of your Pancake King rankings. So yeah, so we'll begin. Cobb, we'll go from Cobb, Alex to me, and then that's what we'll do. So 7. So your 7th ranked team right now, Cobb. Who is your 7th ranked team, the Pancake King rankings?
I was this close to putting myself just based off the last week's performance, but I'm gonna go ZT. I think he had a rough week 1 showing, and he has just been given a must win this week. He's already wishing he had the team from last year, and he just lives and dies by the Detroit Lions. And Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't do anything. I don't know. His ceiling doesn't seem to be quite there yet. I think he figures it out, but right now I have middle of the pack.
Alex.
Yeah, I got ZT as well. Just looking at this, I didn't have time to do formal, big rankings. But just on the fly, looking at this, I think I got ZT at 7 as well. I think he just has enough weapons to compete this year. Obviously, going 0-2 puts him in a bad hole if he does lose this week. But I think he's got enough weapons to be, still fighting. Obviously, for the playoffs, it's very early. But he definitely, I think he has enough depth to where he's not at the very bottom, so we'll put him at the 7.
Yeah, my 7th spot, I have Adam here. Adam is my 7th spot. Obviously, he had a high week last week, and he did it without CMC. But this is going to put to test what I always said, that Adam is way too reliant on CMC. Now we're going to see how reliant he really is on CMC and without his handcuff, and also with a bench that's fucking terrible. So if he can rally off some wins with like AJ Brown going off, Drake London going off, Dak going off, that's great. But we've seen him just be reliant on CMC, and that's usually his demise. So we'll see. Hopefully CMC's only out one more week, because if it's any longer than that, we may see Adam slip in these Pancake King rankings. So Adam is my 7th spot. Cobb, 8th spot.
8th spot, give me just one ZT, give me ZB with the 8th spot. If he had a better quarterback, I think he'd be higher, probably, maybe even top 6. We talked earlier that he doesn't really have that killer, that high ceiling play, but he also doesn't have a low floor. He has a pretty reasonable floor. I think we'll keep him in every matchup. He also has Jameson Williams and Michael Pittman on the bench, which are interesting prospects for his starting lineup. But give me ZB. If his quarterback situation figures itself out, then maybe he goes up.
Yeah, in my 8th spot, I actually got Little J. This is the only person I have in my rankings that are currently in the top 6. I'm just not a big fan of his team to be in that top 6. I just think he's missing like one stud on his team, and then obviously A-Chain, I can see him missing like half this year based off his track record, and then I don't know for a fact that Diggs is like the guy over there. We'll just have to wait and see. So I think he's got enough talent. He got a week 1 win to be higher up in these rankings, not the very bottom. So I got Little J at my 8th spot.
So my 8th spot, I love how we've all kind of been different on this a little bit. My 8th spot, I have Roden. He has Josh Allen, which is great, which is probably the only reason why he's ahead of the next guy that I have, because he has that top tier quarterback. But I mean, you're starting Taysom. We're week 2, and he's going a double tight end set, which a guy who is like a gimmick player, comes in every so often. I mean, dude, he's going to Taysom Hill as his last flex spot. I mean, he's lucky he has Josh Allen, because he'd be very far down my list if he had like a Deshaun Watson and he was also starting Taysom Hill as his last flex. That's really bad. And the worst part is there's no injury behind it. It's just like he's just going there because he has nothing else. He's just trying another thing there. So yeah, that's really horrible. But because he has Josh Allen, he's gonna stay in the 8th spot. And he also gave me a scare last week. Maybe I had that bias there because he gave me a scare for a little bit, so I have him high. But yeah, Roden, 8th spot. Taysom Hill, awful. I don't know what he's doing. 9th spot, Cobby.
Yeah, I've been fluctuating here between 2 teams for the 9 spot. I think I'm going to go Little J. I'll go Jack. Big matchup this week against me. Interested to see if he can continue it. But yeah, I mean, it's just, is Diggs going to continue producing? Is A-Chain going to play? Who knows? I just think there's a little bit of inconsistency and variability within his starting lineup that kind of worries me a little bit, and he doesn't really have a ton of depth to back it up if one of these guys gets hurt or doesn't end up being a good starter long term, which I think holds him back in the bottom 6 of the rankings.
Yeah, so in my 9th spot, I actually got Adam here at my 9. And the main reason has to do with CMC. I think he's, first off, you're going to keep CMC as a first-round tender. I don't care where Jordan Mason was going, which I think was late in the draft. You got to take him 3-4 rounds above his ADP to secure that handcuff there. He's probably the only player in the entire league you have to have his handcuff. So big mistake there. I also think because he had to keep some higher tender players, he did not do a good job building depth. There was a report that came out like an hour before we started filming. It says that 49ers star running back Christian McCaffrey has Achilles tendonitis. And they're saying in general, Achilles tendonitis can take a few months to heal, but we don't know the severity yet of CMC's case. They're hopeful for a return sooner rather than later. So we know his track record, right? Like when he's had seasons where he's had injuries that linger, he misses more games than not. And it sounds like, they're really fixated on, the playoffs in terms of making sure that CMC is healthy. And they've shown that they can dominate a pretty decent Jets team with Jordan Mason in there. So I think they're going to play it safe. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if we don't see CMC till halfway through the season, which I know no one's really talking about right now. They're like, oh, maybe week 2, week 3. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he doesn't come back till after the bye week, which is crazy. So for that reason, and if he loses to Hotch here, he might be in a really bad hole. So I got him at my 9.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good reason there. And plus, as long as the Niners keep winning, there's no reason to rush him back if their eyes is late January, early February, and there's no reason to rush him back as long as they keep winning. But let's say they lose to Minnesota, there might be a push to, okay, we need to get him back here. And Mason all of a sudden looks awful. Because I will say the Jets' run defense was the worst part of their defense. That was going back to last year as well. So the pass defense is where they're stingy. The run defense is awful. And then we saw that last night with Mason looking like CMC last night. But I do like that. So my guy, I have ZB here. Like we talked about, it's a good team. It's a solid team. Like nobody on that team, like, oh man, like he's starting him. No one like that. Maybe guys who are underperforming, like Adams underperformed a little bit. But I love his team. I would love all those guys on my squad. Only problem is this quarterback situation. You got Watson, who's awful. I saw that when he drafted him. I didn't realize that was a starting guy. You got Stafford also. Stafford's solid in McVay offense as far as like NFL style. Hell yeah, he's great. But like the numbers haven't really translated to being a really good like fantasy quarterback in some time for Stafford. So if Stafford can, pull together some games where he looks like what he used to be a couple of years ago, like getting 20 pluses every week, that'd be great. But I feel like he's more of like a game manager at this point in his career. And as long as like they're winning games and like hand the ball 25 times a game. Yeah, quite frankly, I think all he needs is about 20 points a game from Stafford. But until we see Stafford can give you that consistently, I have him right here in my power rankings. But yeah, I mean, he's got a good team. Like if you look at top to bottom, it's a solid squad. Quarterbacks where it lacks, and it's a 6-point passing touchdown league. You need to have a solid quarterback play, and if you don't have that, I mean, good luck winning in this league. So yeah, all right. So Cobb, 10 spot. What do you got?
Yeah, 10 spot. Give me Roden here. I was considering him between 8 and 10. Like you said earlier, starting Taysom Hill already as your flex, pretty rough. And honestly, like he doesn't really have any good replacements for that, which scares me. Like that you're already out of potential replacements. And then Malik Neighbors, decent week 1 for what the Giants did, but not a guy that I'm comfortable starting. I'm not comfortable starting any Giants right now, like not even close. He's really got to hope that Jamar Chase and Burrow get back on track. Again, is this the week against KC in KC? I don't know if that's the case. Swift and the Chicago offense got a lot to figure out. I like Nico Collins and Josh Allen, but outside of that, there's a lot of question marks to start the season. I know it's only week 1, but hopefully they get figured out, and hopefully he gets that last flex spot figured out.
Yeah, my 10, I also have Roden here in this spot. And, it's interesting when I was looking at this, I think you can make an argument to put him at 7 just as much as you could put him at 10, because I think a lot of these teams are, it's really early in the season. I don't think there's a big gap right now. My only issue with him is the way that he's constructed his team as a team that has a lot of depth and players that are going to mature and develop later in the season. You put yourself in a position to make the playoffs, then you have these, boom guys come on strong. Some may say it's the Cobb model, right? You got Marvin Harrison, Olave, those guys who he has the depth to afford to put him on his bench and let him develop. And, once we get closer to, after the trade deadline and everything like that, he should have some studs that he can sprinkle in there to, through the bye weeks to, give him that boost through the wins. But, when you have these guys who I personally think it's going to take several weeks for them to get their chemistry, especially, Neighbors, Kincaid, some of these other guys, and you have to factor in that it's going to take them a little bit of time to come on. Plus, when you have bye weeks, right, you have 2-3 guys out in a given week during bye weeks. Who are you putting in? So I could see him very easily, especially if he drops this next game, going on a run where he starts off like 1-4, and that's a really big hole to climb out of, and that's a big ask in this league. So I got him at my 10.
Yeah, my 10, I have ZT as my 10 spot. Obviously, disappointing performance across the board from everybody. I mean, he had the second lowest score by like only a couple points between him and Yagler, and we've been shitting on Yagler all episode. ZT, man, I mean, at what point are we gonna jump off this, riding Lamar? I'll say this: Lamar ran 16 times in a game last week. I looked at a stat that Michael Vick never ran for 16 times in a game. What Lamar did is like some of the guys who were traditionally running quarterbacks never done. I don't think Josh Allen's ever run 16 times in a game either. And the fact that Lamar did that in week 1 of the season, is that tell you this is going to be the kind of theme for him all throughout the season? And if that's so, He's not going to make it through the season. And Lamar scored like more than half his, like 30% of his points last week, 27 of his 87 points. So you're relying on him. And then Gibbs, I thought was a horrible keep from the get-go. Keeping him in the first round, I thought it was awful. When you're keeping a running back who's the 1A or 1A, 1B situation, it's different than you're not keeping CMC or you're not keeping Bijan or Saquon. You're keeping a running back who's in a timeshare. Awful. It's just mismanagement off the wazoo. He's lucky I don't have him at the last spot right now because with this team that he's got going into the season, he should have been in the playoffs. But I think it's time he's a rebuild. I talked about Hodges stockpiling picks. I know I'm going off here on this whole thing. I'm just really upset with what I saw from ZT's team this past weekend. I'm not buying this team at all. I think this team is going down big time. We'll get to this more later when we do the motivational squeeze. But, yeah, I think ZT right now, it's a must-win for him, like Alex said this week. It's a must-win. He goes 0-2 here. I'm saying sell the farm, get picks, do what you got to do to make up for next year because this team's going nowhere fast. So, yeah, that's my 10th spot, ZT. Cobb, who's your 11th spot?
My 11th spot is a guy that did get the lowest points this week and a guy that was complaining about us dogging his team for a few weeks and now just lost his quarterback and has no tight end, really. That's going to be Yags. He's got a lot to figure out. We talked about his receivers being top tier in the league, but those receivers need, like McLaurin, we need to see a game from him. I do think he has a decent game this week, and Higgins coming back. Again, need for her to figure out. Maybe this is week 3, week 4. Looking at Yags seems completely different when Love's coming back too. I think that's going to be the case, but right now, as it stands, until I see what his quarterback situation ends up being and how long Jordan Love is out, hard to put him higher than 11.
I also have Yags at my 11th spot. Pretty much exactly what you said. You know, I think that Yags is still a newer comer to this league. And, you know, some have questioned, is he a fantasy guy? I don't know. People have questioned that before. And so, like, you know, for me, when you have to overcome this adversity, having one T. Higgins, who they are basically rolling off week 2 again, who's out, and your QB1, who is also a keeper, being out, and you didn't draft, you know, an elite backup, you know, to complement that because he thought he'd be solid this year. You know, it leaves you in a position where, you know, you're relying on a couple guys. And I just don't know if his team's got the depth. I don't know if he's got the experience in this league so far to be able to overcome that. So I got him at my 11.
Yeah, the first sweep we've had. So I got Yagler here at 11 as well. I mean, it's not much you can do. When Love gets hurt, that sucks. You know, and then T. Higgins is hurt, didn't play. He's not going to play in the first 2 weeks of the season. It's the luck of the draw here. As team's solid outside of, like Cobb said, outside of his tight end situation and his quarterback situation, but that's because of an injury. But I don't think – I mean, he can definitely get out of this if Geno Smith tears it up or if he's got a trade up his sleeve to get a quarterback. But it's not looking good. We talk about quarterback being a big deal for this league. If your quarterback's getting hurt week 1, man, it's tough to climb out of this hole. And it was such a winnable week, too. He could have come away with a Jordan Love injury last week with being 1-0 so easily. It's too bad. And I don't think he didn't make any – he didn't mismanage any moves last week, I wouldn't say. Yeah, he should have drafted a tight end maybe a little earlier than he did. But, yeah. But he's not the Pancake King. He's the 11th spot for now. So, yeah, Yags is 11. And now we're going to go to the long-awaited Pancake King rankings of week 1 of the season.
You are the Pancake King, young and sweet-hearting fan of thieves. Ooh, see that boy, watch that taste, digging the Pancake King.
So sweet. I love that song. All right, Cobb, who is your Pancake King?
My Pancake King is a team that I think we all started to get on, I would say the bandwagon, but we started to see a path forward for this team to actually somehow, by the grace of God, be relevant this season. But unfortunately, again, the variability on his team, the uncertainty at this point in the season, it's got to be Hotch. A team that had the second lowest, let's not forget, he had the second lowest points. That's with Jane Daniels on his bench, though. And I think he probably had someone else on his bench that he could have started over some guys. But it's weird that we're in a position where Hodges already has a path forward to relevancy for the season. But until I see him score more than what he did in week 1, despite getting the win, I'm not moving him from this spot. And I hope I never have to this whole season.
So this is pretty crazy. And this might come to you as a shock. I don't have Hodge with this pick. I think as we mentioned, right, we talked about a path forward for him making the playoffs. I think there's this cluster between like 6 to 12 where you look at these teams and it's like any one of these teams could come forward. What's their path? What does this look like? He's got the experience. I think he has the boom upside. And I think, honestly, I like him going 2-0 and figuring things out. And so it's a tough situation. But for my last pick, I got ZB here. And the reason being, and it's not necessarily a knock on him as an owner or saying that he's got the worst team in the league. I just think just that. What's his path forward for the playoffs, right? He doesn't have a quarterback, which is the most important position in this league. And he doesn't have an alpha. And that was exactly what we said when we went through, his team earlier. And we were talking about, my matchup with him this week. We were talking about, okay, Stafford or, rolling out, having to go with Deshaun Watson. Not sexy. Who's going to put the points on his board to consistently get him over the edge? Unless he's playing someone that, has less than 100 points. It's going to be hard for him to come up with wins. I just think he's got a bunch of flex 2 and flex 3 guys. I just don't see the upside. I don't hate this team. I don't look at this team being like, oh, this is the worst team in the league. I think when it's this early in the season, anyone can get hot and win games. And I just think he has the least path forward to do so. Really not having that quarterback puts him in a bad spot. So I got a ZB at my 12.
I mean, I get the rationale there. I just think there's we talk about path forward. Yeah, Hodge is going 2-0, scraping by with like 90 points and like 105, whatever, how much scores he this week. He still doesn't have a lot. He would have to trade a lot of things to get a lot of things on his team. And I don't think he wants to trade all the first round picks that he has next year. Or at least some of them. I don't think he wants to. I think he likes where he's at. And if he wins, sure, it allows him not to be pancake king. And I think he likes that idea of not being the pancake king. To be as low as possible without being the pancake king, I think that's a win-win for him. But yeah, this team is really bad. Xavier Worthy struck gold last week on 2 touches. So it's been fantastic. Keon Coleman didn't really look good last week. Yeah, he had like 5 catches. Sure. I mean, this week he's got Mason starting, and that's just by the grace of God that CMC's out and he drafted his handcuff. That's great. He's relying on a rookie quarterback. Yeah, Daniels looked decent last week fantasy-wise, but he's also playing against a division opponent this week. So, like, there's a chance he doesn't win this week, and then we're at 1-1. It's like, okay, poo-poo this whole 2-0 Hodge going undefeated to start the season now. I just don't see a path. I don't see this team doing much, scoring a lot of rookies on this team. Just guys who, I just don't think it's going to do enough this week to do anything. And I don't think he's going to want to trade some of the first round picks to kind of get him in a playoff spot. Not a team that could contend for a championship, a team that could contend for a playoff spot. It'd be different if he had guys who were like badasses on his bench or on his flex spot. He doesn't have that. He has guys who are serviceable. But I don't think he's going to trade all the things he did this offseason to get a team that's just going to be competitive in the playoffs, not a championship winning team. So that's why I think Hodge is going to remain in this for the foreseeable future and the entire season. So that is where we have the Pancake King ranking. So Pancake King, Cobb and I have Hodge, and Alex has ZB. So very interesting. Very interesting. All right, so now we're going to end the show with one of our favorite fan segments is Barry's Motivational Squeeze. The late, great Marcus Berry really is good at giving motivational speeches. He does it all the time during lacrosse season. Alex knows he gets first hand, looks at those things. But, yeah, this is Barry's Motivational Squeeze where we will give advice to one owner in the league going into week 2 in their week 2 matchup. So here's Barry's Motivational Squeeze.
This is why you're fucking holding back, and I'm tired of the BS.
All right, so that's Barry. I haven't seen that video in a long time. So, Cobb, who is the team that needs Barry's Motivational Squeeze this week?
So there's a team I was going to choose until I got the inclination that another co-hosts might be choosing them. So I wanna leave it for that portion of the segment. So I'm gonna go with Adam. I think Adam is a team that time and time again has shown to be I don't want to say a force in this league, but can usually exceed expectations. And I think he's had a tough start of the year with CMC being injured, especially when he was probably counting his lucky stars with how healthy CMC was last year and going into the season without really thinking or caring about getting his handcuff, which was a little surprising on his end. But I still like his team overall. I think, Dak's going to be a serviceable QB. Is he going to be a top 5 fantasy QB? I don't think so, but he's going to keep him. He's going to keep him in a lot of matchups. AJ Brown obviously is a beast. Kenneth Walker, I think, looks great. Hopefully Seattle's offense figures it out and he can continue that success. Kyle Pitts, still have faith that Kirk Cousins will figure it out. Goes with the Drake London, and then Tony Pollard. If they keep, he's not a guy I was excited about, but if he keeps getting the usage, you have solid foundations as long as CMC gets healthy. You heard Dash say that you put a lot on CMC for your team. I do think that's true, but I do think you have some solid pieces around him, especially if you can maybe wait till Chubb comes in. Maybe some of your rookies start developing with Tyrone Tracy, Blake Corum, Chase Brown was a little questionable, not a rookie, but we talked about it earlier. But yeah, Adam, again, you keep getting disrespected. Just know that not everyone disrespects you. I don't think I had you in my bottom 6 this week, but just want to see some more from you without the CMC. I want to see if you can roll with the punches without a CMC type player.
Big test for Adam. Alex, who's your target for the Barry's Motivational Squeeze this week?
Yeah, so my advice for this week is going to go to ZT. And the reason being, so when I look at his roster, I really don't think it's that bad. But as you mentioned, there's been quotes coming out of his front office that he's not loving his team. He wished he could have a team from last year, and that just doesn't make any sense to me. Like I see this as a team that can compete for the playoffs, and he's down on his guys. And what that tells me is like if every single year, if he's in this position where even a couple of weeks into the season, we're talking about his team being a fringe wild card team, but we never have him in those top 3 rankings. It tells me that whatever he's doing with his managerial philosophy, and I think we've seen this, the running joke is that he's constantly punting every single draft for like a pick for the next year. Then it comes to that next year, he's got all these picks and he punts for the next year. It's like, at what point does he take action and go all in? And I'm looking at his squad and it resembles that. Like you look at this team, and to me, he's like one piece away genuinely from being a team that could even, again, going 1-0-1 is tough. And if he loses right now, he's in a crossroads. Like, does he sell the team and try to go in for next year? Or does he win this week, realize that he's got a shot to compete, maybe make a trade or two to acquire an asset that can really put him over the top right now? He's maybe one piece away, in my opinion, from being a considerable top team. And so honestly, he's just been sitting still, not doing anything the last several years. And clearly he's got some negativity coming out of, that front office and with his team after week 1. And so for me, like, I don't want to just sit, I don't want to go to ball every single week and in the parking lot, just hear him be negative about his team and, just the same old stuff. Do something about it. Either throw in the towel this year and go all in for next year, like we've seen teams do and have success, or it's genuinely he's one piece away this year from competing. Make a move, do something, and let's compete. So that's who I got for my motivational squeeze.
Well, it's funny that you went him because that's who I was going with my Barry's Motivational Squeeze this week.
Yeah, that would have been mine too. I switched off of him. I should tell you something.
So you got a clean sweep on Barry's Motivational Squeeze for CT, I guess.
That's who I was going to choose, and I pivoted to Adam just to give some extra, get CT out of the spotlight. But
well, hopefully CT when he hears this, he knows that there you go. You had 3 guys who wanted to go him, give him some motivation. But I don't know if this is motivation. I think this is more of just like what he should do. And if he loses this week, 0-2, we're talking about a team that scored below 90 last week. Great team name this year, by the way. I love the name change. The whole rebrand was fantastic. He outsourced the work to get it. You came to me, said, hey, I need this graphic done. What can I do here? I'm like, boom, we got you. And I love that. I thought that was the start of something new something fresh. And we're getting more of the same. This is more of the same, ZT. It's punting for the next year. I got a decent team, not the best team. It's all right. I mean, Lamar, I think it's high time we let go of this. He's had him for the entirety of his career. Nothing. He's amounted to nothing on that team. It's time to punt and trade, get some future assets. There's teams we talk about. There's teams in this league who need a quarterback, who have teams like ZB, for example. I think ZB would trade the house for Lamar to be on that team. And if ZB got Lamar on the team he already has, that's a team that's playoffs. I mean, I may not buy, but that's a team that's in the playoffs. I mean, keeping Gibbs in the first round, what are you doing? You're keeping a 1B running back in the first round. Some days he's a 1A, some days he's a 1B. What are you doing? St. Brown, I'm not that high on. I'm not a fan. Plus, you're keeping two dudes on the same team. You're not a Lions fan. What are you doing? Kelsey, drafting him as early as he did. Travis Kelsey, who's going to be a load management tight end this year. I mean, Kelsey back 2 years ago, first round, sure. Top 3, sure. First round now. We saw last year, Kelsey isn't who he is anymore. And I get it. You know, he wanted a splashy pick there. He wanted to have it. And I get it. You know, it's cool. It's not it anymore, man. Kelsey's not the guy who he once was, and it's sad to see. They're just using him a little bit differently. And I think ZT goes 0-2. I think we're talking when we're on the show next week, right at this time, we talk about a ZT rebuild. No joke. 0-2. We're talking about a rebuild. And it's been a long time coming. But a lot of people have been saying for a couple of years now to rebuild, trade for the future finally, and get picks, a bunch of picks in the next year's draft to go all in. And we haven't really seen that. It's always, let me trade this pick next year. It's the first time ever to do a trade like this. I'm going to do that one. Enough with those kind of deals, man. It's either do or don't do, because otherwise you have longest running owner in this league without a championship. He's been in this league since the inception of the BL Plus. He has no championships. We've had guys come and go with championships. But ZT, he's still just doing this willy-nilly stuff. And it's too bad because, you know, he's a solid owner. He knows his fantasy stuff. And I know in another league he lost to Hotch in our auction league by 0.71 yesterday. And he's also on top of this. He's got this kind of to show for it. It's not looking like a good fantasy year for him already. If I'm him, if I lose next week, I'm trading Lamar, getting a shit ton of draft picks for him next year. And that's what I'm going to do. So 0-2, ZT, rebuild time. I think it's time to do it. So ZT, we love you, buddy, but I think it's time you do what you need to do and rebuild. Not really much of motivation there. I guess it's motivating him to rebuild. It's not bad.
I mean, his team name is in my Cobb era, and hopefully it's not like my era last year where I was consistently trying to fight despite the opportunities to rebuild. You know, I should have realized it wasn't my year, maybe, and maybe we're helping ZT get ahead of that.
Hopefully, in his rebuild era, maybe he changes that next year. In my rebuild, it's key. But all right, guys. Well, that does it for us. We hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we hope everyone does well in their week 2 matchups. We'll see you guys next week. Take it easy, fellas.